Condo sales in some major Canadian markets are continuing to drop to lows not seen in decades. It has some condo owners looking to offload their properties, worried that things will only get worse.
The illusion is shattered. The unrelenting belief that Canadian real estate was an infallible bulletproof investment has completely collapsed under the weight of high interest rates and overwhelming inventory. For sellers in Southern Ontario, the Great Correction is no longer a theoretical forecast. It is a protracted, agonizing, and painful financial reality. For over a decade, the narrative was tragically simple: buy anything, anywhere, and you would inevitably profit handsomely. This region, the economic heart of Canada, was a continuous upward trajectory, a feeding frenzy fueled by historically cheap debt and an unrelenting fear of being permanently priced out. Buyers scrambled, often without conditions, pushing values to unimaginable heights. But as we stand now, analyzing the current data, we see the clear aftermath of this boom. The laws of financial gravity have not just been asserted. They are actively pulling prices downward and stretching transaction times thin across the entire province. Today, we are conducting a forensic analysis of the 10 Southern Ontario cities and regions that are feeling the crushing weight of this deep correction the hardest, places where the market is unmistakably stalled, where peak valuations are long forgotten, and where the prevailing environment firmly favors the cautious, calculating, and patient buyer. 1. The epicenter, Toronto's condo market. We begin in the crucible of Canadian finance, Toronto, focusing specifically on the high-rise condominium sector. This segment faces an existential threat born of its own excess. Fueled by years of cheap debt and massive pre-construction sales, the market relied on a continuous stream of investor buyers. Now, those investors are staring down crippling negative cash flow as mortgage renewals land at double-digit interest rates, and construction completion pushes a record number of new units onto a saturated market. Recent reports show new condo sales falling to multi-decade lows, with transactions down over 60% year-over-year in certain quarterly periods, marking a profound retreat from high-density urban investment. This lack of buyer conviction means the resale condo market is severely imbalanced. Sellers are forced to compete not only with each other, but with developers offering incentives, resulting in lower sales-to-listing price ratios and a clear, steady erosion of average selling prices across the city. This establishes the condo segment as the deepest, most systemic soft spot in the entire provincial economy, a situation that will take years to resolve. 2 and 3. The York Region Reset, Vaughan and Richmond Hill. Next, we shift north to the prestigious suburbs of York Region, where the financial reckoning has been the most visually dramatic, Vaughan and Richmond Hill. These communities represented the pinnacle of the pandemic boom, with luxury detached homes soaring to stratospheric heights. Because their prices rose so irrationally high, their subsequent descent has been proportionately painful. In Vaughan, for instance, the average price for a 4-plus bedroom detached home peaked near $2.2 million in March 2022. That same market segment has since seen massive value erosion. Publicly released data indicates that these areas have seen some of the steepest year-over-year price corrections in the Greater Toronto Area, often registering double-digit declines. The demographic of buyers who can afford multi-million-dollar homes under the burden of today's crippling interest rates has dramatically shrunk, creating a profound, enduring gap in high-end demand. This brutal descent from the peak has turned these once hot communities into epicenters of financial anxiety among established homeowners, with the expectation that sellers must drop prices to levels last seen years ago just to find a serious bid. 4 and 5. The commuter stagnation, Mississauga and Brampton. The vast, diverse markets of the 905 belt, namely Mississauga and Brampton, present a challenge defined by sheer inventory accumulation and market stagnation. These cities are vital commuter hubs that grew rapidly by offering a price point slightly lower than Toronto. That affordability advantage, however, is now functionally neutralized by high mortgage rates. In Mississauga, the average home price peaked near $1.35 million in early 2022 and has since corrected by over 20% from that height. Both markets are seeing a significant rise in active listings and stubbornly slow sales velocity. Brampton, a key market for semi-detached homes, saw its average price for all home types surge past the $1.3 million mark at the peak, a benchmark that is now realistically unattainable. This dramatic increase in unsold inventory, coupled with moderate but persistent price declines, means sellers face painfully long listing times and must concede to deeper, often uncomfortable negotiations. The market here is not defined by collapse, but by a drawn-out, wearing frustration for sellers trying to transact in an increasingly crowded field. 6 and 7. The high-value standstill, Burlington and Oakville. The highly desirable affluent suburbs along the western Lake Ontario shore, Burlington and the Oakville-Milton area, are experiencing a slowdown driven purely by the cost of capital. These premium communities have traditionally been stable, but their steep prices make them hypersensitive to rate hikes. When rates rise, the financing required for a $1.5 million or $2 million home becomes prohibitive for all but the most cash-rich buyers. The Oakville-Milton area has seen its months of inventory metrics surge to levels not witnessed since the 2008 financial crisis, a clear sign of systemic market malaise and a profound lack of urgency from buyers. The market is now a complete standoff. Sellers are stubbornly resisting the idea of accepting anything close to the market's new, lower valuation, while buyers are empowered by choice and cautiously waiting for the inevitable discount. This standstill ensures sales activity remains muted, and any transactions that do occur are typically secured by buyers who are conducting extensive due diligence and driving hard bargains. 8. The Tech Triangle hangover, Kitchener-Waterloo. We pivot inland to the Kitchener-Waterloo region, which illustrates a textbook case of a speculative affordability bubble bursting after a period of irrational growth, fueled by the booming tech sector. This area saw house prices surge to astonishing levels as outside capital and Toronto exiles poured in. The average price in Kitchener-Waterloo peaked near $1,010,000 in early 2022 and has since seen a correction of over 20%, one of the steepest drops in the province. This swift and deep correction followed quickly after interest rate hikes and layoffs in the local tech industry. Market data shows the overall average price trending downward with active listings soaring, standing almost 90% above the long-term historical average, a powerful signal of market rebalancing. The local market is now engaged in a painful search for a sustainable equilibrium, and sellers are realizing the pandemic spike was a unique financial event, not a permanent change in value. The sheer abundance of inventory means buyers have unprecedented choice and control over the negotiation process. 9 and 10. The Western Anchor softness, Hamilton and Street Catharines. Finally, we examine the western hubs of a golden horseshoe, Hamilton and St. Catharines. Hamilton, which successfully repositioned itself as the affordable alternative to the GTA, has seen that crucial affordability advantage severely eroded. Hamilton saw its average price peak near $1.1 million in February 2022, followed by a substantial correction of around 25% from that high, one of the deepest value corrections in southern Ontario. The city is now firmly planted in a clear buyer's market, defined by rising listing volumes, aggressive price reductions, and a sustained lack of buyer urgency that makes listing times painfully long for sellers. St. Catharines and the wider Niagara region is facing a multifaceted crisis. Not only are home prices softening, but reports indicate a consistent decline in rental rates across the region. This double hit of falling sale prices and weakening rental income is a critical warning signal to investors, indicating that the investment viability of this market has been severely compromised by high carrying costs and severely weakened demand. The collective weakness in these two key areas demonstrates that the market malaise is truly province-wide, extending far beyond the immediate orbit of Toronto. Conclusion: the market's new reality. The ultimate unavoidable truth uniting these 10 struggling southern Ontario markets is the abrupt, definitive, and comprehensive end of the era of easy money. The market is no longer driven by speculative frenzy. It is driven by the cold, hard, unyielding math of affordability. The prevailing narrative has profoundly shifted from FOMO, the irrational fear of missing out, to FOSC, the very real fear of steepening costs and financial overextension. Inventory is high, sales volume is critically low, and prices are under persistent, undeniable pressure. For sellers, this means engaging in an increasingly difficult exercise of expectation management and accepting that the market dictates price, not their personal financial needs. For buyers, it presents the best selection and negotiating power seen in nearly 2 decades, provided they can financially absorb the high cost of current financing. The profound question now is, how much further will these 10 difficult markets need to fall to truly restore the crucial balance between housing costs and average regional income? And until interest rates truly ease and that fundamental affordability is restored, the painful narrative of correction will continue to define the Southern Ontario housing landscape.